It's a real honor to be here and to be with this great panel. To kick us off, when I wrote Philanthrocapitalism, as Megan mentioned, there were probably three themes that I focused on that are very relevant to this discussion today. One is that the millennial generation really has a set of values and a set of ambitions to change the world that maybe no previous generation has had. The second is that the old non-profit model of solving problems wasn't really working as well as it could, and that there was a new role for profit and for business approaches to play a big part in solving some of the big global challenges. And thirdly, that celebrities were acquiring a new role in this global problem-solving movement because their ability to understand brands and to connect with people in a way that no one else could. And each of those areas had a particular pushback from critics of the movement, which I call philanthrocapitalism. On the millennials, the view was, oh, well, yeah, they're all happy to click, but it's all slacktivism, it's all superficial, they aren't really willing to put the hard work in. On the for-profit model, it was all these people who want to do well by doing good, they're not really willing to be self-sacrificing, it'll all go off in some sort of direction that doesn't really change things, it'll be too marginal. And on celebrities, it was that they didn't really do the hard work, they were associating themselves with causes, and Madonna would be adopting babies left, right, and center without even checking if they had parents or not, and that kind of thing. And it was all very superficial and so forth. And so I wanted to, with this panel, we've got this tremendous opportunity to dig into the reality of that situation with three people who I think are doing this really, really well. Ian, immediately to my left, has set his own foundation up that is reaching all around the world in a very short period of time. Sophia has, again, had tremendous support for Pencils of Promise and for the idea that smart is sexy through Twitter. And then Bryn, on the far end, not only has Esquire magazine, I understand, dubbed him one of the Americans of the Year, but he actually, with RYOT News, is trying to do something that I, at The Economist, wish we'd done at The Economist, which is to actually link up news with specific actions through particular organizations and charities. And so I really wanted to start with you, Sophia, and just to get a sense from you of what should we understand about millennials, how serious they are, how you can connect with them and help them to achieve the changes that are needed.
We have the opportunity to access virtually any place and any situation on the globe right now via the internet at any moment, whether it's occurrences of things like the Arab Spring or live streaming events, elections happening globally. And that's a really exciting thing, but it also, I think, can fatigue us as an audience because we see problems happening around the world and we feel as though they're insurmountable. We feel like, I'm just one person, how can I do something about this? And I think for those of us on stage, we've been incredibly blessed to exist in these spaces and create action, be it for the environment, for education, for news in general. And the idea that we can sort of take that one step farther, I think the reason that we're really excited to work with RYOT is it doesn't have to be insurmountable. You don't have to read an article and be depressed wondering what you can do. At the bottom of the article, we're providing an action. So immediately you can move forward. And if your action is a donation, if it's a retweet, if it's a share, that all matters. The term slacktivist actually really, really bothers me because at the end of the day, I think we as a generation, as millennials, are learning how we can be a new brand of activists, how we can utilize social media to help us. And when I look at everything Ian's done for the environmental space, when I look at the number of schools Pencils of Promise has built, largely through social media outreach in the last 4 years, I don't think it's a slacktivist situation at all.
So what have you done to get beyond the superficial, to go deep with your community?
Well, it sort of depends on what's happening at the moment. Sometimes it's about sharing articles, sharing things that are inspiring, happening in the education space, either at home or globally. And if we're running a contest, for example, for my birthday, I ran a 30 for 30 campaign and wanted to raise $30,000 to build a new school in Guatemala. And the people, a lot of you watching at home, were so incredible, making small donations, large donations, volunteering hours. And in 5 weeks, we actually raised double that and built 2 schools. And so it comes down to sort of realizing all the avenues, I think, that you have to travel, be they fundraising or information sharing, or even at home in towns like Austin, where I have a pretty wonderful reach of students at UT who now because I like to hashtag smart is sexy because I think it's true. And a lot of the students in this town and towns all around the country and the world now send me photographs during midterms and finals of their tests when they get A's. That's the kind of thing I like to retweet. That's really exciting to me. And so we're actually shifting the conversation from what might be happening on a TV show I'm working on to what people are studying, what their majors are going to be, how they want to affect the world through their education.
Now, Ian, I was talking to you beforehand, and you were giving me a sense, firstly, of how big your organisation has got in such a short period of time. And I'm just wondering, you know, what did you do to drive that change? Was that something that was just sort of organic, or did you actually manage it quite well? And how do you turn scale into real deep?
Into real progress, you mean?
Real deep action.
You know, in an organic way, yes, it grows, but you also want to be able to quickly quantify what the numbers are into real progress. And I think ISF, by virtue of the fact that using social media allows us to take information and transport it instantaneously, and then it becomes less about me or Sophia or Bryn or even RYOT. It becomes about the action, about the cause, and I think that it resonated because it becomes localized. And if you want to think globally, you have to act locally. So by virtue of that statement, people in Pakistan or in Toledo, Ohio, have their own specific problems and needs in that area, and all of a sudden now they're connecting with one another in different communities, finding out what works, what doesn't work. That, in and of itself, is a very, very, very powerful way to grow something. And you know, literally in 2.5 years, it's well over 100 countries that this is actually actively working in. So, and again, going back to your question about how do you quantify real progress, those progresses are made in schools. People are building animal sanctuaries. They're implementing recycling programs in places like rural Iraq. It's really working. It's quantified in town halls like this, and in governmental bodies, both state, local, and federal.
So, Bryn, just tell us a bit about the philosophy behind RYOT and what you're trying to do there.
Sure. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming here, too. It's really great
for
us
for
to
being here,
able to talk about this. My background is from the nonprofit field, so working in Africa for 6 years, and then in Haiti for the last 3 with the co-founder, David Darg, who couldn't be here. For us, we saw that the nonprofit, the world wasn't working, and that people needed to connect with what was happening in the world in a different way. So what we were trying to do is that we were seeing that when people were connecting with our nonprofits, they were watching the videos, but there was no reason to keep coming back. And so post-disaster, post-conflict, they were losing the context. So with RYOT, we're connecting these news stories to these actions. And so we work with Ian and Sophia and Olivia Wilde, who's not here, and message what they're trying to say with their nonprofits and the causes they're interested in, and connecting them to the news and what's happening.
So give us an example. What would be a story that would...
Well, just for instance, if Ian's out there all the time saying, get involved with Ian Somerhalder Foundation, we think that it can be even more effective if there's an environmental disaster, or if there's something that's happening in an area they're already working in, it becomes a news story. There's an oil spill. There's an animal habitat that's being, it's going to be lost. We can connect that exactly to what people can do through the Ian Somerhalder Foundation.
Now, how tough can you be? How demanding can you be of millennials? I mean, do they respond well to a challenge? Do they,
Yeah, they do.
So give us some examples of what's happened.
I'll say we both use crowdrise.com. It's a wonderful crowdsourcing platform, and you can run amazing contests and fundraise on it, for any birthday, special occasion, whatever. And when people ask me if millennials want to get involved, millennials with an average donation of $50 or less have helped me raise over $300,000 in 3 years for various causes. So I think they respond incredibly well to challenges. I ran an essay contest to come down to Guatemala and be at the opening of the first school that my birthday campaign built. And kids from all over the country wrote essays about why education is important, what their impossible is that they overcame. And I actually flew a lovely girl named Julia and her best friend Alyssa down to Guatemala with me. We spent 4 days together talking about how to instigate change, and Julia's going to law school, and we're on email now. We're on this great thread all the time, and she's gonna change the world. She's a 22-year-old that I believe in, and I think they are everywhere. And I think the thing that we're afforded in this space, of social media is putting those calls to action out. Because I think young people are more inspiring than just about anyone.
Yeah, they really are.
You give them a call and they answer it.
And also maybe if I could talk about the slacktivist thing too, because we talk about it often. And we tried to reappropriate it as like a cracktivist because we wanted people to get addicted to doing something good or in the world. We bought that website, by the way, so don't take it. But one of the things that's really interesting is that we try to say it right. Anybody can do something about a story. It's not just giving donations. And this generation wants something more from their news, and they want something more from their nonprofits. So we really try to encourage that people do just share stories, or tweet something. And while that may sort of seem as slacktivist for some people, it really is actually educating a lot of people. So for us, a share, a tweet, where they're all of a sudden talking about a woman's issue somewhere or a gender issue that they wouldn't have talked about, that's real for us.
Well, also, too, to add to that, actually, another great thing is that you're not just saying, you're right, a share or a tweet. We're actually actively saying, because people can say, we want to collaborate. I'm actively inviting you guys and anyone watching, come to us, tweet at us, give us ideas, collaborate with us. I mean, anyone. Look to the person to your left, the right, behind you. These are the people that we want to be talking to, that you want to be talking to. That's how this works. So, actively, openly saying, tweet at us, call us, email us. That's how this gets done. We can take your ideas and literally implement them and put them into motion.
Because when it begins, I think a lot of people lose sight of sort of the longevity of it. They think, if you retweet something or post it to your Facebook page, it's easy, it's instantaneous, and then it's over. But it's so much larger than that, because like Bryn is saying, it's changing the conversation. Yeah. And when you're changing the global conversation that we're all having, and you're discussing an environmental crisis or a women's issue or education in the developing world, rather than what happened on last night's episode of The Bachelor, you're making society more interesting. You're making your community more educated. And so you build out. If someone in this audience shares a tweet and then has a conversation with their 4 best friends over dinner tomorrow about that article, they're changing their community. And if those people then come and tweet at me about POP, or at Ian about ISF, or at all of us about an ecological thing, whatever it may be, they give us ideas. We give them feedback. And suddenly it's not just their community around the dinner table, but it's our digital community. And as he was referencing,
which is huge.
It's huge. Be it in Pakistan or Toledo or all the spaces in between, we're creating a space where no matter where you live, no matter how you live, no matter what your socioeconomic background or level of education, you have a voice that is of equal importance to share and to contribute ideas about what should be happening around the globe. Yeah. That is valuable and powerful.
I think as well. I mean, Ian and Sophia see this a lot with their audience, but those are young people who are really smart people out there, and they are demanding that they want to do something and they want to get active. So I think there has been a need in this space for learning about things, for seeing the news in a different way. And right now, news is not cool for the most part. Like Huffington Post has gone corporate, and there's Fox and all this other stuff, but there's not places where we can get actual news about what's happening in the world that is also activating and is talking to that sort of crowd.
But it was interesting. I mean, I looked at your site yesterday, and I think it's great, but also I think you are delving into some really deep areas, because you're recommending charities and organizations. And as someone that's reported on this space for many years, there's very little good information about which charities are doing good things, which are doing less good things. And how do you do your due diligence and make sure you're really...
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something that we really hope with the actions that we give people. That also has the brand of approval from us that this is a great organization that's doing the right stuff. My partner and I, who founded it, have been in the nonprofit world for 10, 15 years, seeing what's happening on the ground. And as you know, there's a tight community, and you know who's doing a great thing in Pakistan, who's doing the real work in Laos, who's doing the real work in Burma. And so it's a lot of research, but it's also finding those organizations that are also willing to work with millennials and engage with them. And so those are organizations that we're highlighting, and it's changed a lot. That space has changed a lot. It's not just give to the Red Cross anymore. And we're very particular on our site with who we link to and who we focus on, because seeing what's happened on the ground in Haiti or in Africa, and now we've got a really good sense of who's doing the right thing.
Ian, you wanted to come in on this point.
Well, I was just saying, excuse me. I think the one thing that and exactly that piece. I've had the question. Well, they're kids. What do they know about any organization? Well, again, by virtue of the fact that information travels so freely, they have the ability to research and really find what resonates with them. The most undervalued, underappreciated, and underused group of people in the world is the youth component. Make no mistake about it. There are a lot of them. So I think if we can activate them, educate them, and empower them, we have a generational paradigm shift, a global shift. For whatever it means, or for whatever it's going to be, whatever issues they may arise, that shift is happening as we speak. So,
and Matthew, I also...
Unfortunately, our time is pretty nearly up, so I want to quickly ask, first of all, Ian and Sophia, in one sentence, if another celebrity said to you, I'm going to start getting active and trying to engage with my community, what one piece of advice would you each give them? And secondly, all three of you, for the audience here and for any individual that just wants to take a step into starting an organization to make a difference, one piece of advice for them as well. So Ian, I'll start with you.
One piece of advice, honestly, I mean, it's one of those things that I would say, believe it or not, call us, check us out. But really, right now, it's going to be go on RYOT.org. Go on RYOT and start finding where you can help, what resonates with you.
You'd say this to a celebrity or to an ordinary individual?
I would literally say it to a celebrity. I would say it to anyone.
And I would second that and also say be authentic. Reach out to people with what you're passionate about. Don't do it because you think you're supposed to. Do it because you love it. And you have an organization like RYOT where you can go and find, as Bryn is saying, the quality organizations who are doing it right.
So both of you, this was very much, you found a cause that you were passionate about, and that led to...
Yeah, I mean, it's our community.
It is exactly that.
And now we want to give the access of this community of trusted do-gooders and people who are doing it right and who are really changing the space. I mean, they're the real rock stars.
Because
we want to share that with
whether
the
it's
world.
Pencils of Promise or ISF or RYOT, the idea is collaboration, collaborative spirit.
And I just want to add one more thing when we talk about this. One of the things that I think we show people at RYOT is instead of us telling you exactly what organization, based on the news articles you're reading, that's how you can discover what you can do and how you can get involved.
And I think the one thing, I mean, to build on that worked really well for Giving Tuesday, which I was involved in launching, was just getting people to tweet their own personal giving pledge. These are the three causes that I really care about, and sharing with their friends. And you just felt people loved the opportunity to say what they stand for and to feel that they were sharing that with their friends.
It's really nice to give people the opportunity to talk about who they are and what matters to them rather than what they do.
Tell them something that,
Yeah, and if we begin saying, hey, you're valuable to me because of who you are and what you're passionate about and the
you're
conversations
valuable to the community. Yeah, really amazing. Guys, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your efforts and your time and your energy. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.